Hello, friends. We are back with part 2 of Motherhood in Retrograde. And I'm unsure what happened to like the first minute of the audio of this podcast episode, but we are winging it here a little bit with the intro before we get into the nitty gritty of the episode. If you are listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you will not notice. But if you are watching it on YouTube, it may come out a little funky. And we are just going with the flow. So, as I dived in last week about my journey into motherhood, this conversation is extremely vulnerable because motherhood is extremely vulnerable. But here we are, like we're talking about it, we're doing it. We are going to, you know, dive in a little bit further. And as we do so, I just want you to know that I'm so grateful that you are here. I am so grateful that you are a part of this conversation. So, I ended the episode last time talking about how we embarked on the journey of motherhood to two daughters in 2020. I gave birth to my youngest daughter, Presley, who is now 5. She's going to be 6. And it's so crazy and wild to see where I was when she was born, because little did I know I was on the precipice of a massive, massive shift in life. And as everyone knows, 2020 was a rough year for all of us. 2020 was not easy. And I gave birth to her. And 4 weeks later, the entire world shut down. I was not able to go back to work. And I did not leave my house other than to go for walks for 6 weeks. I did not go to the grocery store. I did not go to the gas station. My second husband, he did all of the running because he was still going to work. And I stayed home with my colicky baby and my second grader who was doing e-learning. And when I tell you that this was the downward spiral to my rock bottom, it was the fast track, like slip and slide to the downward spiral. And I found myself in COVID just trying to survive like everybody else. And I was very stressed, overstimulated, exhausted. The e-learning was a nightmare. School was never Macy's thing. It was never Macy's thing. And that was like a whole thing, learning to try to like help her navigate school. Um, it's it's been interesting. We're getting there, but it's been interesting. And then, going through change of like having a new baby sister and a baby sister who needed constant stimulation. She still does. She's a Gemini, moon and rising and Aquarius sun. So there's a lot of air. There's a lot of stimulation needed for that sweet baby. But yeah, I would count down the hours until Mitchell would get home because I just needed a break. And we would walk and walk and walk around town, but you were also so scared. I mean, my God, I was like Lysoling vegetables. And now I don't even own a can of Lysol. But there was so much fear. I was so afraid. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was unemployed. And as those weeks went on, I felt myself falling apart. And being postpartum, not knowing anything really about what it meant to be postpartum, even though I had already had a baby. Like, I look back on my postpartum journeys with both of my daughters, and it's absolutely wild because I just didn't even know anything about what my body was going through. I had no idea. I had no knowledge. And even if I could have found the resources, I just didn't even know that I should. It was just like, oh, you're going to feel like shit because you're a new mom. And I hate that I didn't give myself that and support myself better in those ways. But like, you only know what you know, and I can't go back. now, seeing that time in my life, I was struggling. I was struggling, and I have told many people this, but it was the precipice of a really slippery slope with my relationship with alcohol as well, because it would hit like 3 o'clock, and I'm like, I got to drink a glass of wine, or I am actually going to go crazy. And I started to become more reliant on the dissociation from all of the shit that I was feeling that alcohol was giving me. And that eventually led to circumstances in 2020 where I was not feeling like myself. Alcohol was a factor. My relationship at the time was a factor. COVID was a factor. My mental and emotional health, all of these little like factors in my life were just in really strange places. But like I had no self awareness to see it for what it was. All I could see was that I needed to do something to fix it or run away from it. And so I drank a lot, and I stayed busy a lot, and I avoided my feelings a lot. And in that, I felt I felt a rage bubbling inside of me that was very unfamiliar. So, sorry, I kind of sidetracked there. So as a mother, I think in 2020, like most of us, I was just very dissociated. I was very dissociated. I didn't know what to do, how to be. I was just in straight up survival mode. And so, come the end of 2020, my youngest is almost 1, my oldest is 8, and I was approached to do, I've talked about this before, I was approached to do a 75-day challenge, and one of the things, a part of that was giving up alcohol. I didn't realize then, but giving up alcohol was going to be the igniter for a massive change in my life. And so I entered 2021 trying to raise these 2 beautiful girls and sliding into a significant phase of depression. And as depressed as I was, as much upheaval there was for me emotionally, I made a very active choice to no longer run from all of the things that I had suppressed from the time that I was a small child into, my teens and my 20s. I just kind of, when I took out alcohol, it like opened the floodgates for all of it to come in. And I was no longer going to suppress it. I was going to feel it, and I was going to experience it. And I spent most days of the year 2021 bawling, crying, breaking down, um, feeling so broken. But at the same time, because I was no longer dissociating, I was no longer separating myself from my emotions, I was so significantly present with my kids. Because I didn't have the energy to do like I only had the energy to do one thing at a time. And it was like when I was at work, I was at work, and that was all I could focus on because again, I felt so broken. When I was with my kids, I was with my kids, and that was just what my mind focused on. When I got up 2 hours before everybody else and did my morning routines and journaled and meditated and prayed and cried, that's what I did, and that's what I focused on. And those moments are what helped me survive that year. I remember so significantly there were times to where I would be so exhausted, and I would tell the girls, I'd be like, okay, girls, we're going to go up and crawl in mommy's bed, and we're going to watch a movie, and we're going to like rest early. And it'd be like 7 p.m. Like they'd be fed, they'd be bathed, but I just like, my body was so broken, and I wanted to be close to them. I just wanted them to sleep next to me every single night. And I just wanted them to feel my love, even though I felt so broken, so scared, so heavy, and I was hurting so significantly. And little did I know that that entire experience was going to be changing the trajectory of my entire life, changing the trajectory of my entire life. And I think one of the things that I learned through that was learning how to be honest with your kids, no matter how old they are, in ways in which they can understand. I would have to just explain to both of them, even though Presley, she was only 1 years old. So like she didn't really get what I was saying to her. But I would just say to Macy and to her, I love you. I love you so much. Mommy is just going through a lot right now. And mommy just feels really sad. And I have to kind of let myself be sad. Or I just feel really tired. And from that point on until now, I've really learned more and more how to communicate with my kids. Like, it's okay for you to have big feelings because mommy has big feelings too. It's okay for you to be going through something because I sometimes am going through something too. But what you're going through is not my responsibility. Like, your emotions are not my responsibility, and my emotions are not your responsibility. Can we support and love each other through whatever it is we're going through? Yes, but mine is not yours to carry and yours is not mine to carry. And I think sometimes when we learn that lesson, it can make us feel selfish as mothers, but it's not. It's not. It's necessary. It's necessary for our children to learn that they are responsible for their own emotions. And it's also necessary for them to learn that they are not responsible for ours. And I think that is where that lesson in motherhood for me started was, you know, having two kids and going through a very long, very heavy season of being depressed. And as I moved through that year, as I moved through my second divorce, I had to really challenge myself to stay grounded as much as I could, to have hard conversations. And I attained that by number one, getting help. I am a massive advocate that, especially if you are a mother, it's important to have a support system and not just the people around you, your family and your friends and your village, but having a therapist or a healer or an astrologer, whatever it is, whatever tool and avenue feels safe for you, to have a place that you can go and be free to speak and share and get that space held for you by someone who is removed from your life circumstance and situation. Um, but getting help and sharing that with your kids. I've always, from the moment I started therapy with an intuitive guidance healer and seeing an astrologer and now working with my energy healer, I have done talk therapy through a holistic nurse practitioner. And so going through all of those things, I've always shared that with my children. I've always shared that with my kids that I am getting help because I need help so that I can be the best version of myself so that I can show up for them in the best way. And I think that it has given my children the gift of learning how to regulate their emotions much younger than I ever would have imagined. And it gives them this emotional intelligence that they can go and implement in their own life. So it's important to have hard conversations with your kids. It's important to be honest with your kids. It's important for your kids to know when you are struggling and that it's okay to not be okay, but that you are taking the steps that you need to get there. And that honesty that you give to them is opening a door for them to be honest and vulnerable with you. I am a firm believer in what we put out into the world we will receive. What we give to our relationships is what we can set the intention to get. It's up to us to decide, it's up to us to decide if the way in which the person is participating is acceptable or not. But with our children, you know, we give to them. And a lot of times as mothers, we can feel unappreciated. We can feel unappreciated. We can feel unappreciated. But we have to pay attention to the moments in which our children are showing us how grateful they are, because it's not always going to be in the ways in which we expect. And it's also up to us when we aren't being appreciated to set the boundary of when we're going to stop. And all of this is so tricky. All of this is so tricky. And as you know, I, being a single parent of two kids who have very active fathers, I'm very fortunate and very lucky in that circumstance. But when we are home, it is me doing all of the things. It is me taking care of the dog, taking care of both kids, trying to get needs met, and also meeting my own. There are times where I can't do it all. And there are times that I have to be really honest with both of my kids about that. There are times that I have to be very honest about the fact that, like, hey, I'm only one person. I can only do one thing. I can only do one thing at a time. I need you to just give me a minute, and I need you to give me some grace. I need you to cut me some slack. Okay. Can you do that? Teenager, I'm talking to you. But when I embarked on this new season of life, as I have been healing, it's like peeling back the 8 layers of an onion. The more I peel back, the more I understand the ways in which that I grow and I learn and I evolve is rippling into my relationship with my kids. And I'm getting better at communicating with them. I'm getting better at not reacting and just responding. Even though it's not perfect, it's getting better. I'm getting better at explaining to them, hey, we don't need to react. We can just respond to each other. I'm getting better at expressing myself in a way that's not, you are you are pissing me off. It's, I am feeling very pissed off by this circumstance. And being able to shift the perspective a little bit, being able to look at my oldest daughter when I see her trying to parent her younger sister in the ways in which I used to, which was very reactive and very defensive in certain circumstances. But the way I used to parent her, and I see her doing that to her sister, and me now knowing and having the tools to be able to give her, like, hey, we don't have to do that. That's not the way that we have to handle this. We get to make a different choice. And doing it with grace, not doing it with blame, not doing it with a way in which that I'm like tearing her down. And, being a mom of two, it's interesting because my girls need different things from me at different times, and their age plays a factor. Their individuality plays a big factor because the way that they communicate is different. The way they show up in the world and what makes them feel safe and feel loved is all very, very different. And kudos to astrology for being able to help me to understand that more significantly in their lives. But I've also had to learn how to adapt. That's what we're constantly doing as mothers, is we're learning to adapt. But now, instead of like before when I was younger and I was constantly projecting and reacting and putting this pressure on myself and thinking that it needs to be perfect, I'm learning to adapt with life and with the circumstance and with our relationships, and knowing how to be able to show up for them and knowing when I need to show up for myself. And really just being able to allow it to evolve, allow our relationships to evolve, allow the ways in which I mother them to evolve, because I may be one person at one phase in my life and be entirely different. I feel like this year is an example of that. My identity has shifted so significantly over the last 10 months. And so that changes how I show up as a mom. And it's changed it for the better. It's changed it for the better because I have consistently chosen in this life, from that moment, from that, downward spiral, rock bottom moment of depression, I chose from that moment, from that season of my life, that I was never going to abandon myself again. I was never going to abandon myself again. And I was no longer going to keep myself small for the sake of other people's comfort. And that includes how I mother. That includes how I show up for my children. That includes what I allow to be okay and acceptable. I used to, when Macy was younger, kind of let her walk all over me energetically, emotionally, because I was so afraid of her being upset with me. Like I shared in the first episode, I was so afraid of her being upset with me and being mad at me. Guess what? Now I can handle it. I can handle her being mad at me because she has like a 2-second rebound rate and then she's going to need something and we're probably going to be fine. But watching this evolution, looking back at this evolution that I have had and seeing the ways in which I have evolved and adapted to motherhood is something I'm so fucking proud of. And the ways in which I've been able to hold space for these two unique, beautiful girls that are both very intense in their own way and both very similar to me in ways in that intensity that I've been able to, oh gosh, like heal so many parts of myself through these relationships. My little inner children that want to be seen or that feel angry or that feel judged. Like these things come up because of circumstances and situations that I find myself in with my children. And instead of projecting that onto them, like I did when Macy was little, I now take that and I take the lesson that comes with it and then I do something with it. I do something with it. And I think that that's the important thing for us as moms is like, you know what? We fucking bust our ass to be there for these kids and show up for these kids. We deserve to show up for ourselves. We deserve to show up for our own inner children. And then we deserve to fucking do something about it in our lives. And maybe that means implementing boundaries with our kids. Maybe that means saying no to shit that we don't actually want to do or have the capacity for. Maybe that means, you know, going offline for a few weeks and, really being with ourselves and being present in our lives. And, oh gosh, I see how as mothers we give and we give and we give and we give. And sometimes it just feels like, God, we don't get anything in return. But we have to be willing to give ourselves something. We have to be willing. If we're not willing to give it to ourselves, if we don't feel we're worthy of our time, our love, our attention, our energy, what makes you think that our children are going to give that to us? Like, what makes you think that they're going to get, like, if we don't feel worthy of it ourselves, then like, what's going to make them think that we deserve it? And so we have to set that precedent. We have to set that intention in motion. And the thing is, the gift that we give to ourselves is also the gift that we're giving to them. The more permission we give ourselves to be who we are and give ourselves what we need is the more permission that we give our children to do the same. And I think it's important. I think it's important that we listen to ourselves. We listen to ourselves and figure out what it is that we need, and that we teach our children to listen to themselves and that we listen to them. I think one of the greatest things that I've learned in this journey of motherhood, I've said that like a million times, like one of the greatest things I've learned is that, when my kids come to me with things, and I'm not always great at this because I am a fixer, but one of the things that I found really profound and works really well in our relationships is that when my children come to me with things that I I sometimes will ask, "Do you just need a vent? Do you just need me to listen? Or would you like me to help you brainstorm some solutions here? Or would you like my advice?" And it opens up this space for us to be able to communicate in a way that supports them and not just makes me feel validated because I'm like fixing their problems. And, you know, as well as like giving that to myself. Like, hey, do we really need to figure out a solution to this thing that is stewing inside of us? Or do we just need to get it out of our body? You know, we don't always have to fix it. Sometimes we just have to get it out. And, as, oh gosh, as these girls have grown, as our lives have changed and evolved, as I've healed and peeled back that onion more and more and more, it's been so cool to see. And, I've had this thought lately looking at them and how grown up they both seem, how grown up they both are. They're like, God, did I miss it? Did I miss too much of it? Was I too distracted by too many things? And, we don't get this time back. And I, as a woman that is 33 and been through 2 divorces, feels very complete with only 2 children. And, don't feel as though I'm not called to have more kids. This is it for me. And I think I don't wanna waste it. We all waste time. It's something that we do every single day. But the big moments, the important moments, the moments when we stop and think, "Okay, I don't wanna waste this." Like, those are the ones that are gonna really matter. Those are the ones that we have to cling to and hold on to and, just really allow ourselves to treasure because this life is special. This life is unique. These children chose us for a reason because they needed to learn the lessons from us, from our shadows, and from our light to be able to become who they were meant to be. And we are meant to learn the lessons from them and their shadows and their light so that we can become the next versions of us that we are meant to be. And motherhood is an exchange. It's an exchange. It's this beautiful exchange. And I also understand that some people don't have those relationships with their moms. And that's okay too. There's other people in your life that you can learn so many things from a mothering standpoint. But no matter how positive or negative the influence of your mother has been in your life, you can always learn something from it. I say this all the time. I don't believe that everything happens for a reason, but I believe that you can find reason in everything that happens. And I find reason every single day when I look at my daughters. I find reason every single day when I look at my daughters. Presley, raising her has been such a unique experience. The child is so beautifully intuitive and witty and intellectual, and her imagination and this innovation that she has and the way that her mind works is so cute and special and unique and smart and expansive. And learning to mother her after, feeling like I had somewhat got things figured out with Macy has been an entirely different experience. It's been an entirely different experience. And then there's been these times where it's like I'm trying to navigate how to do both at the same time. And It's it's complicated to say the least, but it's also something that I never quit giving it my all. I never quit giving it my all. And these girls have taught me more lessons than I think that I could ever teach them. But as I continue to learn and grow and share with you all more about my journey through motherhood, I'm just grateful to kind of be able to be here and talk about it, talk about the ways in which and I've grown and reflect on how far I've come. Because I think that that's important. I think it's important when we reflect on how far we've come because it gives us this deep appreciation for where we are. And I'm so grateful and appreciative of where I am as a mom, the confidence that I've built, the ways in which that I no longer allow those fears to control me. I still have them, but I have awareness around them so that I know what to do when I feel judged. I always carried this weird belief that I was always being judged because I became a mom at such a young age and I do things so differently. And, I realized that that was a projection from like my inner teenager who always felt judged. And when I feel unheard, it's a projection from me as a child not feeling heard, which I think most of us can relate to. And when I find myself reacting instead of responding, it's this projection of not feeling safe or not feeling loved. And I know that those things aren't true. So I can repair for myself, for my kids. I can have the conversations that I need to. I can be honest with them. And honesty goes such a long way, because when we set the intention, when we really start to create shifts and changes in our own lives, our children will see that because they learn from our example. They learn from our example. That is so true. And we have to be willing to face ourselves so that we can face them in a grounded way. And I think as mothers, which again, I could do an entirely other episode on like the struggles in motherhood, because yeah, we've like skimmed the surface, I feel like, with my relationship with motherhood, but I feel like there's a lot of good stuff here. We've like skimmed the surface, but I could like dive into like the gut wrenching moments, and I probably will. Because that's what we do here. That's what we do here. We get vulnerable. And we share and we talk, and I share my story so that hopefully you feel seen somewhere in yours, and hopefully you come and share that with me. So that I know that this message is resonating in some capacity. But I don't know. This is definitely a conversation that we're still going to continue to have. This is a conversation that I feel is so important. I feel like our moms need to use their voices. We need to use our voices. We need to share. We need to share our experiences, even the parts that we have felt shame around, because we all have them and we're never alone in what we're going through with our kids. And this journey isn't easy. It's beautiful and chaotic and so rewarding. But there are moments where, gosh, you feel like you're just pounding your head against a wall. And we're not alone in that feeling. And we get to do things differently, and we get to learn, and we get to continue to realize that we don't have all of the answers and we don't have everything figured out. It's okay. And our kids are doing the same. So give yourself permission to get it wrong. Like I said in the first episode, give yourself permission to get it wrong. Allow yourself to let go of control, and really celebrate how far you've come as a parent, as a mother, no matter where your journey started or how it began, how it's gone along the way. If you're here now listening to this, you're doing a really good job. You're doing a really good job. Show up for yourself so that you can show up for these sweet, beautiful babies that have come into this world to be loved by you. All right, guys. Until next week, I love you. Thank you for being here. Come say hey over on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook at Turn the Page Podcast.